Being a perpetual victim will eventually make you an abuser.
So the thing is, perpetual victimhood doesn't just, affect the person that is stuck in it, but it creates more victims, right? So, and this is not us talking about, people that are being abused or the survivors. This is us talking about staying in that victim mode long enough. I have these interesting videos to share with you, and I feel like it makes sense. So let's watch these videos together, and I'll see you all at the end of the video. I'd like to know your thoughts about this video down in the comment section, as always.
Being a perpetual victim will eventually make you an abuser. I understand the instinct to see yourself as a victim after you've went through abuse. But if you stay in that victim mindset for too long, you'll become the very thing that you hate. I know it sounds like it makes no sense, but it's true. If you allow yourself to believe that you're the ultimate victim in life, you will start to lack empathy for other people, and you'll become a person that hurts other people. You must leave your victim mindset in the past with the abuse. This is not to blame victims. This is just a warning. I've seen it so many times before. A person who is victimized will create more and more victims because of the anger and pain of what they went through. Don't let yourself become that person. Being a perpetual victim will eventually make you an abuser. I understand the instinct to see yourself as a victim after you've went through abuse. But if you stay in that victim mindset for too long, you'll become the very thing that you hate.
I see that we're finally ready to talk about some real shit, and I'm so happy this person said this because true words couldn't be spoken. If you find yourself walking around in life thinking that you are always the victim, you will be incapable of highlighting when you are not. We are all capable of harming other people. In fact, all of us have harmed people and will harm people. That's just the nature of life. But your unwillingness to see that because you have been victimized before will cause you to victimize people without any scruples. You will not reel it in. I think movies is a great example of this, right? A lot of the villains in a lot of the movies and shows that we enjoy, they often think that they are right. They're not led by some nefarious evil that's guiding them. They are often people or things that have been wronged in life. And in order to correct that wrong, they go about life villainizing other people. That is quite literally, those are the most believable villains too, because that's a reality. You can become the villain really easy if you walk around thinking you're constantly the victim. And let me be clear, it is so easy to get stuck in this mindset if you've been victimized before because you believe that because you are at the whim and control of other people and things that is how your life has to be for the rest of it until you learn how to literally take ownership over your life, your ability, your action. And I'm not saying you weren't victimized because likely you were, but until you learn that you do have a certain degree of control in your life, you're not going to understand how that also applies to how you interact with other people. A victim stance is the worst thing that you can have. Like constantly believing that you are a victim to everything around you. It validates every single misdeed that you do. Please reflect if you think that like you are just like, if you pull out that little tiny violin every time some shit goes wrong in your life, I'm probably talking to you. I tell clients all the time, right? I'm a therapist. I tell my clients all the time, why are you telling this story over and over and over and over and over? And I've been guilty of doing that myself too. Like, right, we tell ourselves these stories that paint us as the victim, and those stories justify a lot of the things that we do, the things that we don't do, and the ways that we believe and behave. Okay, be careful about the story you're telling yourself, and why are you always the victim of that story? You got to think. I'm sure abusers all the time, I know for a fact, abusers often think that they are the victims all the time.
Being a perpetual victim will eventually make you an abuser. I understand the instinct to see yourself as a victim after you've went through abuse. But if you stay in that victim mindset for too long, you'll become the very thing that you hate.
This is so true. And the process is so subtle and it happens over time. I don't even think victims realize they're becoming abusers. What happens is unknowingly, so many of them want to reenact the central drama of their abusive relationship. So whether that's their childhood or a romantic relationship, the same issue or type of issue is going to come up. For example, if their parents always overpunish them for not being communicative enough and they wanted to always know where their child was, if the boyfriend or husband was controlling and demanding about their whereabouts, they're going to start to reenact that with you. At first, it's going to appear like normal boundary setting. Okay, well, I've been in a relationship where I went through this, that, and the third, and they always had to know where I was, and I had to be on Light 360, and I had to confirm my whereabouts, and he made me pass the phone around people in the car to prove I was where I said I was, and I'm not going to put up with that. Fair enough. But just like the abuser, they're going to start to have a double standard between their behavior and your behavior. They get to come and go as they please, but they are holding you to a strict timeline. Well, if you're not there at such and such time, I'm going to leave without you, or we're going to go someplace together. And when I get ready, I'm going to leave you without communicating because, I don't tolerate anybody making any demands on my time or telling me where I can and can't be, but they're going to make demands on your time. And they will verbalize this. Well, I have trauma around this, but you don't have any trauma around it. So, you need to be in place. You need to basically accede to my schedule. And next thing you know, you, the friend or the person in the relationship with them, you're going to have trauma. And your nervous system is going to be compromised from you being treated the same way that they were once treated. And this is happening not because you've done anything wrong, but they're now asserting and over asserting all the boundaries they wanted to assert with the abuser, but they never got to. Now, in case that was confusing, I'm going to do a lighter example with the cartoons. Here's how I visualize these dynamics playing out as shown by Batman Beyond. So in that clip, Spellbinder has used his power to make Terry/Batman have a very powerful visual hallucination. He really felt like he could see, smell, feel the waterfall, and he was diving into it, and he ended up harming himself. And that's what happens with these people. Because abuse does change your nervous system. Abuse does compromise the way you perceive things. So in this person's mind, they are not trying to harm you. They really are just trying to establish boundaries or whatever. But the way they view the world has been tinted by the abuse. And so they can perceive you, a person who's not doing anything, as encroaching upon their space, doing the same kinds of things, being the kind of person who harmed them. And they are trying to, in their minds, defend themselves, but you are actually being harmed. It's kind of like this scene with Spellbinder. Deacons didn't want to fight Terry. He didn't want to fight Batman. He didn't want to do anything that was wrong. He loved his job. He loved his work. But his mind had been infiltrated by Spellbinder, and it cast a glaze, it tinted the lens through which he saw what was happening, and it made him act in ways he otherwise would not. So this person is seeing life through the lens of a person who's experienced abuse, and it is making them lash out at what they perceive to be enemies when sometimes there are no enemies there. But that's why people need to get the treatment that they need to get. They need to unravel these patterns and whatnot so they don't put it on the next person. I saw a great quote the other day where it said, victims of abuse are only going to attract heroes and villains into their life, but they're going to make every hero into a villain eventually. And the creator said in their opinion, it was because they were going to perceive the hero a certain way and cast them in a villain role. And I was like, not just that, they will make the person into a villain, like literally with actions. Because if someone just gets fed up and says, I can't take this anymore, this situation is now starting to compromise my mental health and my nervous system, and I'm going to walk away because I now feel like I'm being abused, they will vilify the person for walking out. Oh, if you really loved me. And that is like straight out of the abuser handbook, asking a person to put up with abuse to prove their love. If you really love me, you would stay with me through this. I'm going through a rough patch. You should be understanding. Oh, my history. Your trauma does not override anybody else's boundaries. It doesn't give you the right to harm people. And the minute you start expecting somebody to overcompensate, to go through what you've been through, to prove their loyalty or whatever to you, you've crossed that line. I know people struggle with nuances. It's not to victim blame or whatever, but everybody has to be responsible for their own behavior and how it affects others. As someone said, a lot of these abusive parents were once abused children, but we as a society do not recognize that as an acceptable response, to redistribute the pain to your child. You are responsible, and no court in the world is going to say, oh, well, you went through the same thing. Well, you get a free pass for doing whatever to your child. Well, the same is true of other adults. You don't get to re-inflict on them what has been inflicted on you. It's not okay. I made this video to spread awareness because I think this is actually more common than a lot of people even realize. And because these are about adult to adult relationships, a lot of times it will just result in the former victim being alone because adults aren't going to take that. Some people might get involved in an entanglement or whatever, but most people are going to walk out of your life. They're not going to talk about it. They're not going to sift through it. They're going to be like, I gave my everything and this person tried to harm me, so I just don't have any interest in that. And if you find yourself on the other end, you're the person overcompensating because you know your friend, boyfriend, husband, whatever has an abusive past, and you want to let them know you're going to be the kind of person who's going to stick by them and you're never going to take them through it and you're always going to love them. Please be aware of where that can lead, because if this person has not done the work on themselves, it can be a bottomless pit trying to feel that need. And because they're still seeing things through the lens of their abuse, they may end up harming you. And it won't be intentional, but you'll still be harmed. So you need to be aware. Doctors or
The thing is, you will not even know what you're doing. You will not even know that you're actually turning into the abusive person. You will not even know, right? I just feel like the thing just happens because you've been stuck in that survival mode in a very long time. And I feel like the best thing is therapy. Therapy works a lot. And most of the time, people just overlook it and be like, oh, since I've survived, or I've left this abusive partner, or I've left this abusive relationship, I do not need to go to therapy. I do not need to, I'll be fine by myself. Most of the time, you need like extra help, if that makes sense. Unhealed pain doesn't just disappear at all. It doesn't just disappear. I feel like you still need to work on a lot of things to avoid you being the abusive person yourself. You guys, what do you think about this video? Let me know your thoughts about this video down in the comment section. Respectfully, as always, Chikamara Davis, and thank you so much for tuning in today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please like and share and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one, guys.